Hey guys, 2Cav here, and today I'm going to be giving you my prediction on the upcoming 2014 Ohio State football season. Now, first of all, when looking over the schedule, I see 4 ice-cold lead pipe locks that I don't think the Buckeyes can lose in, even if they tried. And those games are at home against Kent State, at home against Rutgers, at home against Illinois, and home against Indiana. So that's that's at least at the bare minimum. Well, they're probably going to win more games than that, but those games are locks that I see them absolutely winning. Now, the Buckeyes start off on August 30th. They play Navy in Baltimore, and I have that down as a win. I think they're going to win that game. The Navy triple option might be a bit tricky to deal with, and it might be a bit tricky that it's basically it's almost a road game for Ohio State playing in Baltimore, but the run defense is a strength of Ohio State's, especially with this year's defensive line that we have. And Navy obviously doesn't pass much, which is probably going to be our weaker unit again this year. So I see that as a win. The next game is September 6th, and we host Virginia Tech under the lights at the Shoe, and I also think the Buckeyes are going to win that one. Virginia Tech is not what they once were. They lost Logan Thomas, their starting quarterback, from last year. The defense could give the young offense a bit of trouble, but I see the Buckeyes coming away with a win in that one. The next game is September 13th against Kent State. Yeah, not really much to say about that. That is a win. After a bye week in week 4, the Buckeyes host Cincinnati in an in-state rivalry game under the lights again. And while I do think Cincinnati are a decent program under Tommy Tuberville, they're also going to be very amped up to play Ohio State. I think Ohio State just has too much talent not to win this game. I think that's another win. The next week, October 4th, the Buckeyes will be at Maryland in their Big Ten opener, and this is also a bit of a tricky game because Maryland are going to be playing their first ever Big Ten game, and it's going to be in College Park. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere there. And Maryland, they did make a bowl game last year. They do have some talent, most notably Stephon Diggs, who the Buckeyes tried to recruit. Having said that, College Park normally isn't the toughest place to play, and I think overall the Buckeyes have too much talent and too much depth to be seriously threatened by Maryland. I see that as another win. After another bye week in week 7, the Buckeyes host Rutgers on October 18th, and yeah, that's going to be a win. That's going to be pretty ugly, even without Braxton Miller. Having 2 weeks to prepare for Rutgers, it's not going to be pretty for them. That's a win. The next week, October 25th, they are at Penn State, and this is going to be, it was already going to be a bit of an awkward game with Braxton. Without Braxton, this is a very, very tricky matchup. Obviously, Penn State just hired James Franklin, and he has been building some very solid momentum. He's been instilling a positive attitude in the program, which they've needed. And obviously they have a stud quarterback in Christian Hackenberg, who should be a high NFL draft pick. And not only that, it's at Penn State in Happy Valley at Beaver Stadium. It's under the lights. It's going to be a whiteout. That is one of the toughest conditions to play. It's one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten, and that's going to be a very tricky game. And for that reason, I have this game as a question mark. I think it could go either way. So moving on, after that week, November 1st, they host Illinois. Illinois under their third year with Todd Beckman, excuse me. I don't think Illinois is going to be that much improved, and that game should be pretty much a walkover. That's a win. Now we've come to the big one. November 8th at Michigan State. This is going to absolutely decide which one of Ohio State and Michigan State plays in the Big Ten title. And, you know, I want to be positive as a fan, but I have to be realistic. Without Braxton Miller, I don't see Ohio State coming out with a win in this one. I think they'll be competitive. I think it's going to be a close loss, but you know, Michigan State, they just retool on the defense. They lost a few defensive guys, but their defense always seems to be very, very tough. Add to that a much improved Connor Cook that we saw at the tail end of last year, returning his receivers, returning running back Jeremy Langford. Unfortunately, I think Ohio State will just be edged out in this game. I have this as a loss. And the next week, November 15th against Minnesota, in Minnesota, is another very tricky game. And it's tricky because it's right after the big Michigan State game. You know, the Buckeyes could fall into a trap here. They could be coming off a euphoric victory, or they could have suffered a demoralizing defeat. So there's the morale aspect. Minnesota, under Jerry Kill, is also a very solid program. They've been much improved in the past couple years. And add to that, it's at Minnesota. It's in Minnesota in November. That's going to be a very tricky game to get through, and I also have that one down as a question mark. I think that could potentially be a stumbling point for the Buckeyes. The next game, November 22nd against Indiana, that is at home. Not much to say about this one. Indiana could cause some problems with our pass defense, but yeah, this one's going to be an easy Buckeye win. And finally, November 29th, to close out the season, it's the game against that team up north. And honestly, I don't think Michigan's going to be that much better this year. They hired a new offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier, but their offensive line was already not very good last year, and they lost Taylor Lewan from that line, and another important offensive lineman whose name escapes me. But add to that Devin Gardner's really inconsistency and his propensity to make some mistakes. Add to that, this game is in the shoe. I cannot see Ohio State losing this game. I just can't. I think this is going to be a win, and yeah, they'll extend their dominance over Michigan. So, in conclusion, I think Ohio State, their final regular season record, I'm going to put it at 10-2. I'm going to say 10-2 because I have them losing at Michigan State, and I have to allow them to be tripped up elsewhere in one other game, whether it's at Minnesota or at Penn State, or even against Virginia Tech or Maryland or Navy. I mean, you know, obviously I think that they will have a very good chance of winning every game but Michigan State. But I have to be realistic, and realistically, I'm going to predict a 10-2 season. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you want to leave a comment below, feel free to tell me what your thoughts on how Ohio State's season's going to go, what games they're going to win, what games they're going to lose. So yeah, thanks for watching. OH!